Ukraine isn't just fighting Russia, they're dismantling the very idea of the traditional Russian military, a meat grinder approach to warfare that maybe has reached the point of no return. While the front line turns into a high-tech kill zone, the world is asking, has this Russian superpower finally begin to break? Today we're going to break down why Russia may finally be running out of time. And I'm Simon Diggins, and this is Superpowers Exposed. Ukraine hasn't just been improving its weapons, it's developed a new system for fighting the war. Using long-range drone missile hybrids, AI-driven mission control, and autonomous swarming tactics for its drones that are dismantling the Russian military in real time. We're going to begin by looking at Ukraine's 2026 defense strategy under the Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov. Ukraine's 2026 strategy under the Defense Minister offers a grounded, real-world version of a technological superpower. This is about a nation turning data, algorithms, and mass-produced robotics into a force that could dismantle a traditional military giant. In 2025, Ukraine carried out 819,737 confirmed strikes and caused 90% of all Russian combat losses using drones. That is more than all the other systems combined. And they've also linked that to a system whereby production is also distributed. Some, like for example the first-person view ones, are produced in small basements, to the point that the hashtag made by housewives is actually trending nationally and indeed worldwide. Ukraine's top drone commander, Robert Madziabrovty, said, "The focus is shifted from destroying tanks to bleeding the Russian army itself. For the first time, drones are killing Russian troops faster than the Kremlin can recruit them." At peak intensity, Ukraine is erasing nearly 400 Russian soldiers a day. That's an entire assault battalion wiped off the map every 24 hours. These are not losses, and the scale of attrition cannot be sustained, even by Russia, with its superior manpower and resources. Spring 2026 was supposed to be Putin's moment, but what we're now seeing is that Russia is beginning to lose its grip on the war. For the first time since 2023, the Ukrainians are now recapturing more land than the Russians can take themselves in their offensives. Tactically, at least, the tide is beginning to turn for Ukraine. The challenge, the issue, is whether they can turn that tactical advantage into a greater operational or even strategic one. Russia thought they could win a war of muscles, but they've been trapped in a war basically of mathematics. At the centre of this strategy are drones. More of them being manufactured, better ones much more capable, and being used in ways that we haven't seen before. We're talking about massive scale, extended range, the use of AI to improve autonomy, and the birth of the drone missile hybrid. Here is the toolkit currently dismantling the Russian forces. First of all, there's more of them. There are literally thousands of drones being used by each side every day. But for the Ukrainians as well, they're also developing what you might call longer range drones, as well as the short range first-person view drones. They've now got drones that can conduct strategic missions against strategic targets deep into Russia. They're also much harder to stop. One of the early things that happened in this war was the development of sophisticated electronic warfare and cyber attacks on each other's side. We've now got frequency hopping radio controls, fiber optics which can't be jammed at all, and by the use of AI-enabled equipments, they basically can operate autonomously away from control and therefore away from electronic warfare interference. This gives them the ability to navigate better, to target better, and with the development of new hybrid drones, and the Ukrainians have now got missiles, the FP2 and the FP7, which are a combination effectively of drones and cruise missiles combined. They're considerably cheaper than missiles and with much longer range than normal conventional drones. It's not just though about having large numbers of drones, it's about how quickly they can turn information into a strike. And this is a standard military approach. You observe the target, you orientate yourself to the target, you attack, and then you reorientate following that. We call it sometimes the OODA loop itself. Now what they're now able to do using AI is to quickly short circuit that circuit so the drones themselves can acquire the targets. Because they've got pre-programmed information saying you can attack this target, they attack them, and the level of involvement, the level of engagement that the human in the loop needs to do is much minimized. This speeds up that whole OODA loop, which gives the Ukrainians particularly a distinct advantage over the Russians. Russia is not incapable. It launches probably 1,000 drones a day towards the Ukrainians. But the Ukrainians are able to intercept some 95% of them. That is an extraordinarily high success rate, at least as high as that achieved by the Israelis, often on many respects much better than them. This video shows the Sting Interceptor, a drone designed specifically for air-to-air combat. It can reach speeds of nearly 200 miles an hour. And in the footage, you can see how effortlessly it catches up to the slower, more lumbering Shahed drone. And this explains why, even when Russia can launch a massive 1,000 drone swarm, Ukraine's defense doesn't break. They've scaled their response to match Russia's mass. This video here is a good illustration of Ukraine's tactical dominance over the battlefield. You're seeing 4 Ukrainian prisoners being led away when a swarm of 10 FPV drones arrives. Watch the Russians. They do not know where to look. They're pinned down by the sheer mass of the swarm, giving the Ukrainians just enough time to break for freedom. Effectively, along the whole of the 1,000-kilometre front, Ukraine has created a digital no-go zone, and in this structure, the traditional infantry with their mass assaults or capture tactics are effectively obsolete. What we've seen up to now, essentially the tactical use of drones, whether it be in air defence or on the immediate battlefield itself. In this video footage, we're going to see the strategic use of drones by the Ukrainians. And this is an attack that took place in March of this year, a massive Ukrainian hybrid swarm of aerial and maritime drones breaching the impenetrable defences of Novorossiysk, which is to the east of the Crimea and where the Russian Black Sea Fleet had to move because of previous attacks on Sevastopol. By using artificial intelligence to automate the final seconds of the strike, they've made Russian impenetrable defences like the harbour booms and electronic jammers completely obsolete. What the Ukrainians are now able to do is to conduct coordinated strikes, swarms, if you like, of drones. What this gives them, firstly, is a huge advantage because it means that they can use scale to break up Russian attacks and also focus, because a single operator can now concentrate on the overall mission rather than chasing an individual target. They use semi-automation, in some cases almost full automation, to guide the drones onto the targets themselves. And as technology is advancing, they're moving to a place where all the drones are fully automated. They are able to prioritise the targets as well. Now, this is not new technology. The UK, for example, had the Brimstone missile system, which is 20 years old. But the scale and the fact they've also been able to push it down to individual drone is new from there. And they're developing the whole time. One operator, Presidency, are developing what they call loiter drones. This gives an autonomous flight to the target area, then it waits for targets. The operator can focus on the killing and not on the flights. The Swarmer system has 1 scout drone and 2 bombers. And this company is now testing swarms of up to 25 drones. Another company called itself the Fourth Law, which referenced back to Isaac Asimov's law of robotics. The idea that robots should reproduce is what they're going to try and produce is what they call a massively scalable autonomy. That'll have autonomous takeoff and landing, target detection and identification, navigation without GPS so they can't be jammed, and the entire mission will be conducted with only minimal supervision. It will not come as a surprise to know that the United States is very interested in what they're doing, and they've also been supporting the Ukrainians. They're providing them with something which they call the Sky Node strike kits. This gives them, through the use of AI, enhanced ability to identify and target the Russian enemy. This was publicly demonstrated in January of this year in America, but is likely it's already in use in Ukraine now. All of these things lead then to what you might call multi-direction attacks. It means that they can overwhelm Russian defensive systems and means that it's impossible then to kill all of them at the same time. And they are extremely hard to counter. What the significance of this, what the big picture significance of this though, is the following. We may be in a position now with what we're seeing with the Ukrainians to actually flip the dynamic. So it's not just about defense, effective though that defense is. Might they now be able to conduct significant offense using these new weapon systems? A battlefield is always a dangerous place to move itself around, but by using drones and using to the extent they're doing, the depth of that dangerous area has increased enormously. It's suggested that up to 30 kilometres into the Russian area from the front lines is now too dangerous for Russians to move without being targeted. That is significantly different from previous warfare and previous battlefields. This isn't just about tactics on the ground. It's about a strategy built around numbers, knowing that if they can achieve a target of 50,000 Russian casualties a month, Russia cannot replace them. And over time, through this attrition, they will win the battlefield in Ukraine. Taken all together, this suggests that Russia may well be running out of time. And their hope, the Russian hope for 2026, that 2026 will be a year of a decisive breakthrough, looks less and less likely. And we're only just 3 months into it at the moment. Even at the top there are signs of significant pressure. And questions then arise about how exposed Russia's leadership really is. The speculation is, as a result of the attacks on Ayatollah Khomeini and indeed other Iranian officials, that Putin is worried that President Zelensky may be able to conduct similar sorts of attacks against him, and he's therefore moving around to try and hide himself. But there are other indications as well. Russians in major cities, including Moscow and St. Petersburg, have faced unprecedented network outages over the last month. Mysterious network blackouts have plagued Russian cities after Putin signed a new law requiring telecom operators to shut off internet access whenever the Kremlin says so. And then shortly after the law took effect on March the 3rd, residents across the capital reported widespread issues with internet access and communications. The significance, of course, of this is very much what Putin's been doing throughout this war in Ukraine. He's been trying to control the narrative and control the information that's flowing. But as casualties increase, then the need for him to try and control and make sure that his story takes precedence is clearly greater and greater. And the conclusion he must have come to is that just putting out contrary propaganda is no longer working. He now needs to stop all sorts of information that might change the minds of the Russian people. That, of course, makes him scared. This is a man who's an ex-KGB man, paranoid about his own security and paranoid about his health. And clearly he's worried. Is this superpower behavior on behalf of the Russians? The conclusion I'm drawing is that the limits of Russia as a superpower are being shown in the battlefield in Ukraine as much in its inability to effectively support its allies like Iran. And linked with that is the thought about whether Russia, after this war, will ever be able to recover effectively. Ukraine has proven that a nation doesn't need to be a traditional superpower to break one. It just needs to outthink, outpace, and outcode the enemy. And that leaves us with the big question. Is this the end of Russia, the traditional military power? And for us also, a big question remains. Can the West keep pace with Ukraine's innovation? Or are we watching the future of our own defence being written in Kyiv? I'm Simon Diggins. Thanks for watching Superpowers Exposed.